Welcome to the Do Zone, where entrepreneurs go to get things done. I'm your host, Josh Thomas. You can find me on all social media at JT Literally. Each week, I bring on experts from a variety of backgrounds to share their secrets on how to optimize performance so you can take massive action and crush your goals. If you want to build a slingshot that brings in quick cash and sales for your business in as little as 7 days, I'm going to give you a simple framework that has worked for me and my clients time and time again at no cost to you. Go to factor1.io now, enter your email address for immediate access. Once again, that's factor1.io. Today's guest is Kyle Hoffman as an executive at Xenosci Ventures. Kyle sits on the leadership team for two portfolio companies, Function Growth and Wello. He runs the strategy department at Function Growth and operates as CMO for Wello. Function Growth and Xenosci Ventures specialize in using behavioral science to drive growth for their clients. Kyle, welcome to the Do Zone. Tell us something you believe is the key to getting stuff done that most people wouldn't think of.
Thank you, Josh. Pleasure to be here. It's a good question. I think my answer is a simple answer, but it's most effective. I'll go ahead and claim. I think when you're thinking about getting stuff done, I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs tend to gravitate towards the sort of command and control style of I need to manage this and make sure that it gets done, and I need to make sure it gets done the right way. And I think that the real transformative piece is to shift from the command and control style of leadership to trusting and inspiring. There's a great book called Trust and Inspire, but we're really big on it here at Function Growth and Xenosci and Wello. And you just simply can't get stuff done by yourself these days, especially in the world of entrepreneurship. There's no way for one person to successfully do it all. So you really need to rely on people who are feeling inspired and feeling motivated, and the best way to get those people to do that is to shift your leadership approach. So I think that would be my answer. It's all about trusting and inspiring the people that you work with.
And it makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that stood out to me that you said was nobody gets anything done alone. And it's 100% true. There's plenty of science to back that up. There's some science about accountability, which is basically if you're committing to someone else in a specific time frame, your chances of following through are really high, like 95% plus. If you just commit to yourself, like, I'll go and get this done sometime, your chances of doing that are not very high. So having somebody else involved
Absolutely.
by itself is really important. And I'm curious,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear you dive into, because you mentioned behavioral science. I'm no expert, I'm no doctor, I'm no scientist, but I am an enthusiast, if you will. So I'm curious to see, what role have you seen the behavioral science has in growing a business?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we love behavioral science. And really quickly before I jump into that, I love that you brought up accountability too, because one of the key things, it's like people, there's a lot of studies on this that you can see in the book, but people who are motivated significantly underperform people who are inspired. So you should spend a lot more of your time. What's it, the quote? There's a famous quote of, it's something to the effect of like, if you want to build a ship and sail the sea, don't teach your people how to build a ship and tell them to gather wood and do all these things. Instead, you should teach them to yearn for the vast and open sea. And I think that really speaks to the idea of inspiring, and that's what creates accountability and ownership of things.
Well said.
But yeah, so B-side, let's talk about behavioral science. Behavioral science is, the way that we view it, is sort of like this lost art in the world of marketing. Like there's so much first party data and sort of expertise that people rely on these days. But those are sort of like the two pillars, right? It's like, got a lot of experience. I've run lots of campaigns in the past, sort of the marketing techniques. And then you've also got a lot of data to help support make decisions. But we view behavioral science as sort of this third forgotten pillar of marketing, where there's all this data that's actually scientifically backed, and there's been studies around that marketers sort of forget to take advantage of, or subconsciously sometimes are using. But when you bring it to the forefront of your consciousness, it helps you understand and read data in a much better way. So it's almost like this third pillar of marketing that layers throughout everything that you do, and it can help on the strategic side. I would say we use it mostly on the sort of strategic side as we're talking about what sort of focus we want a campaign to have, why certain campaigns are working and resonating, certain ad creatives are working and resonating. It gives you a sort of a shared knowledge to sort of talk about the things in the way that behavioral science allows you to. So
Can you give me a couple of examples of what are some specific techniques that we may deploy so that we can better understand a marketing campaign, for instance?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, one of the most the obvious ones and probably the most used is social proof, which there's just tons and tons of studies on. Basically, um, the fact that people are going to be more receptive to a new idea or a change in behavior or a new product if they see lots of other people doing it, talking about it, especially people they trust. It's the reason why influencers work so well. The core behavioral science behind influencer marketing is social proof. And so that's kind of an easy one that everyone's aware of. Everyone sort of uses it subconsciously, but then there's some more that you can be more intentional about. Choice paralysis, for example, on your website, making sure that your product category pages and your product listing pages don't just have tons and tons of products that people get lost in. Instead, it's much better, when people are confronted with too many options, they end up not picking anything at all. If you present them with a streamlined, well categorized set of options, they're much more likely to engage with it and choose something. That there's plenty of behavioral science tests around that as well. The danger of free is another one that we use a lot. A lot of times marketers want to give something away for free to add an extra incentive to purchase something, but what that actually does is devalues the product that you're giving away for free in the consumer's mind. As soon as you give something away for free, people are much less likely to attribute any value to it in the future and think that it's only worth getting if it's free. And so there's we actually have a Consumer Behavior Lab podcast, which I would recommend everyone listens to, which is a part of the Xenocide Ventures. But we work with Richard Schotten and our founder Michael Aaron Flicker. Two of them have a podcast called the Consumer Behavior Lab, and they get on. And Richard Schotten's a leading behavioral scientist. He's written two books that are great, that I would recommend everyone reads. But they're just full of all these different tactics and studies and how they can be applied in the world of marketing. And the podcast is a great listen. They basically talk about some of the modern brands, some old famous case studies of like how different brands use behavioral science to win. So
That's
there's
awesome.
all sorts of great applications. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's one of those things that we kind of know, but we don't really know why. Like testimonials and social proof makes a lot of sense, but getting behind understanding why somebody values that and having too many choices, the confused mind always says no. If you overwhelm me with options, I'm just not going to choose anything. Just give me one choice and I'll go that way. And just is there one more layer to peel back on this so that we can understand, well, why are those things important? Why is it important for us to see other people doing it? Why is it important for us to have only a couple of options? Why is it important for us to assign a value to things so that other people can see that value in things? Is there a deeper cognitive reason for that?
Yeah, I mean, it all just ties back to human behavior, and I think that you'll find a lot of those details in some of the studies. For example, like one of the famous social proof studies is it this study where give me some grace for messing up the details probably, but
Sure, yeah.
there's a hotel, and they wanted to run a study to see what sort of message would resonate with people, to see if they could get people to reuse their towels instead of having to redo laundry all the time. And so the first change that they made was they put a note on the towel that said, it's great for the environment if you reuse your towel. And I think about like 35% of those people reused it. And then they say most guests who reuse this towel, or most guests reuse this towel, and that actually had like a 44% of the people reuse it. And then the very highest amount that drove the highest results was they said most guests who stay in this room reuse the towel. They made it personal, they made it social. All of these things tie back to probably the way that humans have evolved to exist in social circles and in tribes, and like we require social acceptance because that was how we survived. If you were an outcast of the tribe, good luck surviving on your own. And so like I think a lot of these behavioral sciences, the way that we purchase and the way that we consume and the way that we act as consumers actually all just kind of ties back to the way that we've evolved as a species. And the way that we've interfaced with culture, of course, influences all of our behavior. But I mean, it's a fascinating topic. It's not a math equation. There's no things are shifting constantly, and the way that Gen Z, the behaviors that Gen Z has are different from the behaviors that millennials have, and it's partially because of the way that we the cultures that we existed in and that we grew up in, but also partially because of the way that we're programmed. And I don't know, it's a fascinating topic. There you go as deep as you want on these things.
Yeah, and that's great. That's exactly what I was looking for, as far as like, why do we behave this way? Well, it's because we're wired to behave this way. It's a survival instinct. There's a hormonal reward that we get by behaving in accordance with other people, and serotonin. It's that kind of community chemical, if you will. So that was a great example, actually, because I noticed that switch, because you would go to a hotel and they would say, yeah, they wouldn't say anything. They would just like do your room every day or something. And then I noticed suddenly, it was around COVID, I think, or maybe a little bit before, it was like, oh, for the environment, we're only going to come in here if you ask for it. And I was like, interesting, like that's an interesting way to save a bunch of money, to position it in a
Yeah.
way that it's like, hey, we're not trying to be lazy bums or be cheapskates. It's for the environment, man. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's great. And so, will Kyle tell us a little bit about what you're working on now and where people can go and learn more about it?
Yeah, I'd say probably the most applicable, like I talked about, the easiest entry for people is go listen to the CBL, go check out Richard Shotton's book on behavioral science if all the behavioral science stuff sounds interesting to you. If you've got a brand and you're wondering how to apply it specifically to grow your brand, Function Growth is an amazing team of experts where we sort of exist at we exist at the nexus of like technology and business consulting and marketing, and we're specifically built to help e-commerce D2C founders. So you can go to functiongrowth.co, and there's a form you can fill out to get in touch. You can also send me an email, khoffman@functiongrowth.co. But yeah, we have a great unique model at Xenosci Ventures, where we have this service-based company, Function Growth, that allows us to then launch our own ventures as well. So we launched Wello, which is a compression sock company, because we had so much success growing other brands. And now, it's not often you get to work with an agency that also has experience, owning and operating an entire e-commerce brand. And we've seen some pretty wild success. I feel pretty confident saying that I think Wello is the fastest growing compression socks company. Yeah, it's just really exciting stuff. So anyway, we have this great pool of knowledge and resources. If you want to reach out and get in touch with Function Growth, we're always open to that.
Awesome. Well, hey, we're going to wrap up from here. Thanks so much for our guest, Kyle Hoffman, for coming on and sharing a little bit of wisdom about how your brain works and how you get things done. For those of you who want to connect with him directly, you can go to functiongrowth.co, or you can find him on LinkedIn. If you're listening to this podcast out on your morning commute or somewhere in the gym or out in the field, snap a selfie, tag me at JT Literally, show me what you do in the do zone. And one more time, if you need a quick injection of cash in your business so you can get some momentum now, Go to factor1.io and let's talk about building your slingshot. Know this, you are Factor One for your own success. Now let's get to work.